Why is Barcelona the most visited city in Spain, and actually one of the most in all of Europe and the whole world? But is it a desirable place to live, or will you always feel like a tourist? From Michelin star restaurants to parks to museums, could you live here? I'm Kalie with Expats Everywhere. Come explore with us.
And I'm Josh, and right along the Mediterranean, Barcelona's history dates back over 2,000 years ago when it was a village. There are a couple legends as to its origins, but let's fast forward to Francoism, where Barcelona was resistant to the coup. This would cause the city problems.
Catalan is the official language here in Barcelona, but they do speak Spanish. However, depending on who you're talking to will depend on how much Spanish they actually want to speak.
It's amazing the language is still spoken today because remember those problems that I mentioned from not liking Franco? Because of that, Catalan was suppressed and even forbidden in public life. Despite the civil war, dictatorship, and other things, Barcelona held strong and pushed for a democracy in Spain.
Their history is pretty complicated as they were once their own country called Catalonia, and although technically part of Spain now, there's still a massive fight to be independent of Spain. They haven't let any of this hold them back though, as the city is an amazing melting pot of the sun, the sea, and a stylish city vibe. And wow, do they do all these things really well. Let's break them down.
Starting with the sun. What's the weather really like? Now, the lows will get into the 40s in the winters, but the highs in the winters can get into the 60s, but mostly hover into the 50s. So not cold winters at all. You will get some rain, and snow of course is rare.
It starts to warm up in the springs where the normal temperatures are in the 50s and 60s. Then the summer is nice and sunny but not terribly hot. It mainly stays in the 70s and 80s. Fall is lovely as the temperature drops a little, making it 60s and 70s on average.
So overall, the weather really lends itself to the Mediterranean vibe and culture. The beaches are beautiful and there are parks along the water and the city for relaxing and playing in.
The city is quite child and pet friendly. Of course, with the great area, you have lots of outdoor cafes and restaurants available. Barcelona is known for its nightlife as well. So if you're looking for a small trendy spot, a club, or something super high-end, the city is for you.
We'll talk about the general cost of things in a minute, but first, let's highlight a few good neighborhoods to live in. There are loads of options, so we'll just highlight a few.
Here's an area that is safe and great for families. It's popular with locals and expats and has a more suburban feel.
This neighborhood has a hip bohemian vibe, so it's good for those wanting to be in a trendy place. It's more artistic and more affordable compared to some of the other areas. This iconic park, designed by Gaudi, is here. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the largest green spaces in Barcelona.
If you want to be centrally located and in an elegant and cool area, then this neighborhood is for you. From bistros to boutiques, it's a bustling area to be in, but keep in mind that you'll get a lot of tourists and people out and about here.
The Gothic quarter borders this neighborhood and offers narrow medieval streets. It's also quite a bustling area and a good spot if you want to be right in the thick of things. Prices overall are higher for accommodations and restaurants here.
Arguably one of the most famous streets in Barcelona is here, but it's a bit of a tourist trap, and be careful and you need to watch your pockets while you're here.
There are also many other neighborhoods we could highlight around Barcelona, and a lot depends on what lifestyle and vibe you want. But the last one we'll mention is this one because it's one of the city's most up-and-coming districts. It has more of a casual feel and you'll find less tourists here compared to some of the other neighborhoods just to the west of it.
So now that you have an idea of where to live, what are realistic prices for apartments? If you plan on being very central, expect to pay at least 1,000 euros a month for a one-bedroom apartment. Of course, some of the more popular and pricier areas will be more expensive.
And as you move a little further out, it might drop, but the proximity to public transportation and whether it's furnished or not needs to be taken into account when factoring in the price. It's possible to find an apartment under 1,000 euros, but it will most likely be small and may or may not be renovated.
Obviously, as you go bigger, the price will go up. 1,500 to 2,000 euros a month is a realistic budget for a 2 to 3 bedroom centrally located. You might be able to find a little cheaper if it's not furnished. If you want to live in a pricier area like the Gothic quarter, then it could be higher, but it's possible to find good deals.
A really good thing about Barcelona is there are lots of long-term rentals, so lots of options and a variety of apartments.
What about other costs? Budget around 150 euros for monthly utilities. At the grocery store, you can get a liter of milk for around 1 euro, a kg of apples for around 2 euros, and a good bottle of wine for around 5 euros.
A meal out at an inexpensive restaurant will be around 15 euros, and a 3-course meal for 2 at a mid-range restaurant is around 60 euros. You of course have the option to get a drink on a rooftop bar with a view or find a trendy hole in the wall for a beer. Lots of options, and location will dictate price. You can find a domestic beer for €3, but pay €15 for a cocktail.
A single ride ticket for the metro is $2.40, but you can get a card with 10 journeys for $11.35. There are monthly passes which vary by age and zones.
Barcelona is quite walkable if it's not too hot, but it is a very big city, so you do have a lot of good public transportation options. You've got the tram or metro, you've got taxis, you've got buses, you even have motorbikes that are quite popular here. Now you also will see a lot of regular cycling bikes that you can see through the bike paths. Just make sure you get yourself a really good lock, as bike theft is a thing here.
Now something to keep in mind is Uber is kind of in Barcelona, but kind of not. You can reserve through the app, but it functions differently than other cities, as it's like a taxi app here. So traditional taxis use the app, but not all taxis use the app for bookings because many taxi organizations continue to protest Uber. Cabify would be another option, as it's popular in Spain with its headquarters in Madrid.
Being a digital nomad or remote worker is quite easy in Barcelona. There are plenty of co-working spaces and cafes to work at. It's an attractive destination and quite friendly for expats and nomads. Wi-Fi speed's amazing, and it's a great place for networking.
There are a lot of job opportunities available here too, as it's a melting pot of languages and cultures. Anything in the tourism industry is good, along with food and beverage. The tech scene is also really good here.
If you're an EU citizen, then it's much easier for you to live and work in Barcelona. If you're not, you'll need a visa. If you move with a company, they will assist you with sponsoring you. If you go at it yourself, it's possible, but it will test your patience, as the bureaucracy can be quite a headache. It's doable, but just be prepared for it to not be smooth.
Yep. For those of you who like football or soccer, Barcelona has the largest football stadium in Europe and arguably one of the most famous teams in the world.
The city does a great job of incorporating green spaces and parks throughout, whether that's along the water or interior of the city.
There's definitely not a shortage of things to do in Barcelona, but would Kalie and I live here? Before we share our opinions, we wanted to let you know that Digital Nomad World helped us put this guide together, and for more information for you to read, go check out Digital Nomad World. Link in the description section below. All right, so I feel like we have some strong opinions on Barcelona because we've been there a lot.
A lot. And we used to live in Madrid, so
Yes.
there is that as well.
And we don't have that like Spanish rivalry, Madrid, Barcelona. We could care less. We're outsiders being Americans.
Yeah, but they are different, and I mean,
Boy, are they different.
I think people have they like one over the other for sure.
Yes.
But Barcelona is quite good for tourism. The problem with that is there are a lot of people in certain locations. So as far as living there, it would be hard to live in one of those highly populated touristy areas. They're nice, but it's just too many people.
Yeah, I wonder actually how well you could start to feel like you're becoming a local.
Oh,
like
right.
how long would that take even with the language thing? So if you speak Catalan, that would help you become more local,
Yeah.
right? But if you're speaking Spanish, Castilian Spanish, then maybe locals would just think that you're a visitor from another part of Spain, or they would just mark you as being a foreigner outright.
Yeah, it could
So
be
then,
hard, yeah.
so then, how well do you integrate? How well do you blend?
And feel just adjusted, that you're not always treated like a tourist or an outsider. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So whenever we traveled there from Madrid, you know, we were working on our Spanish at the time, and we would speak Spanish to people, and our Spanish was a bit clunky, right? But like, they knew we were a foreigner, and they would just go straight into English mode.
English, yeah.
And the English was fantastic.
Yeah, it definitely is. So that's definitely something that's good. And then also, I mean, Barcelona is big, but it's quite walkable. It's easy to walk when the weather's nice.
Yeah, I love the weather there, actually. We've been in every season. We have, really enjoyed the weather. I'm not scared to go there really any time of the year, whereas I would be a bit afraid to go like south of Spain in the summer, or even Madrid. It gets desperately hot in August. But Barcelona has that Mediterranean kind of breeze that blows in. It does get hot, but everywhere in Europe gets hot in the summer, it seems.
Yeah, it's not so bad though. I mean, the weather is quite pleasant overall for sure. So walkable, good weather.
The food, the culinary scene there is among one of the best in the world, and not just for Spanish food, but for global food,
Everything.
it's
You have
really
everything.
good. Everything that you would want. And the prices aren't that bad.
Really not, actually. I think because you do have everything and you have lots of different restaurants of like the same cuisine, it's not that expensive. I mean, obviously some things that are harder to get might be a higher price, like maybe like Asian food, for example. But it's not that bad, honestly, for a big city.
Yeah. What do you think about the friendliness of the locals? Because I think that can be a weak point maybe of Madrid. So what do you think about the friendliness for people in Barcelona?
It's not great. I think because you're probably always looked at as if you're a tourist, unless you can totally blend in. So I think maybe if you can blend in completely as a local, like you're, you adjust to that, then it's a little easier. But then you start meeting your neighbors and such, so it's a little different. But overall, I would say it's not the friendliest place in the world.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's not the friendliest place in the world for sure. I think that Portugal, where we live right now, is right up there with some of the friendliest people. I don't think that Barcelona is as bad as Madrid in terms of friendliness level. They don't have that kind of capital rush feel. Maybe it's something to do with the weather being so nice. People are just more laid back, right? Like calmer. It's not a beach town vibe at all. Like it does have, it's hip. There's stuff going on. The pace is faster than if you went to somewhere like Valencia, let's say, or somewhere even smaller than that for sure. But the people are friendly enough. It would not put me off. Like their level of friendliness would not put me off from living there. Cost of living kind of would.
It depends on where you are. Some of the neighborhoods that are a bit more up and coming, like that we talked about, they're not as expensive. Now, I would say sometimes with accommodations, because it's a big city, you've got some small apartments. So maybe price per square meter is a little high because you're paying for, maybe something that feels affordable, but it's small. So you do have that. But again, when you move a little further out, of those main touristy areas, which I would want to live in anyway, not in those touristy areas, then you can find some stuff that's more affordable.
Yeah, and there's plenty of job opportunities if you're not retired and you're still looking for a job, or you are in the arts or you're a digital nomad. There's definitely that scene there where you can find work or connect with people that you need to connect with or be creative. Okay, so I've got to ask you that question. Would you expat that?
I would say yes. I would expat Barcelona. Again, I would not live in the high touristy areas because then I would always feel like a tourist and there's so many people. But the weather's great. I like the beach even if I'm not by the beach. It's close enough. It's affordable. There's lots of good food. I would say
smells.
Stinky. There are some stinky smells, so you want to find an area that doesn't have a stinky smell. It does have that stinky city smell in places. But yes, I would expat that. And you?
Ooh, yes, I would expat Barcelona, but I would certainly want to search high and low for the right neighborhood for us at this point in our lives.
Right.
Having a kid, the price point, and then also not being so close to the tourist zones where it just is a lot of people most of the time of year. And actually, I would be really curious to know how you feel about Madrid. Now that you know about Barcelona, you've got to compare it to Madrid. That video is right here for you to make the comparison.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Now let's get moving.
Bye.
Bye.